So how's the cost of living crisis affecting small business right now? Well, watch on. As a business accountant, my team and I spend all day long helping business owners on their journey. And of course, a massive topic of conversation right now is how is the cost of living crisis affecting other businesses? You know, people want to know, how's everyone else getting on? Like, is it a problem, or should people be worried? The news are bombarding us of all this bad news all day, every day, but how is it actually affecting the small business world? So I thought it'd be a great vlog to come on, just talk a little bit off topic about that at the moment, kind of state of the nation type thing. And also I've been very ill for a couple of weeks, which is why we haven't had a couple of videos. It's a good one to kind of get my voice back and hopefully talk to you a bit more about this. So yeah, massive issue right now. I suppose to sum it up, the conversations we're having with clients at the moment in the small business world is that it's not that bad yet. And I think actually it's going to hit us further down the line. Currently, people have got cash, people have got, got customers, got clients. It's all going sort of okay. There's no panic going on. I think everybody's still pretty positive about the future. Most clients I'm talking to are still gearing up to do everything, but they have got an awareness that it's there, that there is something coming. And I think also maybe that reflects where we are as a kind of a nation. We haven't seen it in our personal pockets yet because we haven't got to the winter stages where the energy is going to hit us even harder and all the rest of it. Although, as I'm recording this, new Prime Minister, potential energy caps and all the rest of it may help that. Currently, that's a big worry for a lot of small businesses, is the energy bills. So if you've got premises and the current caps hadn't applied to businesses at the time I recorded the video, so it meant that your energy bill could absolutely spiral, and depending on what you did, it was pretty much like what are you going to do about it? And I think that is a massive concern for a lot of businesses. So, hospitality and the rest of it, we've got quite a few clients in that. Even if you run like a salon, the electricity cost of a salon was pretty good anyway, pretty heavy. Imagine what it's going to be like in the future. So that is a real issue. And actually, when we talk about action points at the end of this, it's going to be one of the things you're going to have a look at, because despite the government may do something for business, if they do, it's only going to be short term, I'm sure, because they've never really, I don't know, it's kind of like businesses, it's the Wild West. You have to sort it out. It's what you do. That's the risk you take on as a kind of an entrepreneur. You've got to figure this out and make it work for you. And all the market will be adjusted it. No one's going to be in business by not doing anything, because they're not, they're very unlikely, unless they're making ridiculous profits now, using the salon example, to stay in business without doing anything. They're just going to go out of business. They have to react somehow, and that's just what you're going to have to do. And if that means it's price rises or whatever else it's going to be, then that's what it's going to need to stay in business. That's what it's going to need, and there will be this state of turmoil. If you go and change all your pricing to reflect your new costs to stay in business, there will be other businesses that might not do that in the short term, which means you might lose out customer in the short term. But when they get out of business, where else are they going to go? It's a really weird market right now. With inflation, I think we're going to see this a lot. I feel like we're in this kind of transitional period where you might initially feel like if you do reflect it and you do change your pricing, and some of your clients are saying, or your customers are saying, well, this is too expensive. Well, there probably are still currently cheaper options, but those options are cheap because the owners probably haven't looked at it, haven't realised they need to change, and they're on a ticking time bomb. So, but you've got to kind of put up with that sort of, you're too expensive, and all these kind of things in the meantime. And we're seeing that with a lot of the businesses we're working with around their pricing, is they're worried about putting it up at a time like this. But targeted price rises might be the only thing that keeps you in business. If you've got these utility pressures and everything else, and your business is highly reliant on those kind of costs, you've got to react somehow. So, and that will be one of the action points for really this video to take away, is if you don't look at your figures regularly, you need to look at them, especially right now, more regularly than you would normally, because you've got to keep an eye on this sort of erosion of your profits, because everything's going up slightly, right? Even if you're not getting, even if everything's not going up, your software providers might put a couple of quid on your subscription. This might be going up, this might be going up, and your profits start to go like this. And then if you've got utilities coming in at the back end, it can smash them completely. You've got wages because you've had to raise your wages of your team to keep them in a house, because I think whilst money's a primary driver, I think, having worked with small businesses over a long period of time, is the consensus is really money's not the key driver, but it becomes a key driver if they can't afford to live. So therefore, people are looking to make sure that their people are looked after and bring those up as well. So again, all these things, your profits could go to nothing or could go to minus if you're not careful. So you've got to react. But I think we've spoke about this on previous videos. If you are going to react, it starts with looking at, do you need to? Look at it. Because you might decide morally, you're making loads of money and you can afford to lose that margin and keep everyone happy and it's all fine. Very unlikely in the small business world, but it could happen. Otherwise, it's having a look at what you can do. You don't necessarily want to be that person that just I'm going to put 10% price rise on everything and tell everyone it's because of inflation. I think everyone would kind of understand it, but I don't think it's the greatest thing to do. And I don't think in the majority of cases we're seeing here, you actually need to do that. It's looking at where are the areas where you're actually losing, where are the price lines in the products you sell that don't make any money. Let's look at those and change those, and you might be able to keep the baseline one the same. So if you've got a really popular one that you feel like is pretty good, it's higher end market rate, you don't really want to move it up because then it might get a little bit of a sour feeling, but actually you've got all these other ones that you sell which just don't make any money. Well, fix these ones and see how that goes. Do a little bit of fag packet maths, as I call it, and just play around a calculator, see what that might look like, get some help if you need to, and see what that looks like and target your price rises. And then the biggest thing, of course, we're seeing with business owners at the moment is then it is a lot of admin. You have to communicate that price rise and communicate that well. Good time to remind of the value that your product or service has. Maybe look at repackaging and rebranding some of your current services or offerings to make sure they really highlight the value that they bring. So it doesn't just look like it's the same product with a higher price. Even if it is the same product with a higher price, sometimes it's a good idea to just remind people of what they're actually getting when they work with you. So that's quite important at the moment for sure. So don't bury your head in the sand. You will need to do something, but I don't think it's doom and gloom. It's all fine. We've over the years all these challenges hit us as business owners, and they're all workable. But the worst thing I think at the moment is if you just don't look at it and you don't know it's coming, and then you find in 6 months' time we get round to let's say we get to March. So you've gone through the winter period, your bills are building up, everything's happening, everything's gone up. People are having a hard time individually, so maybe your trade's quiet, maybe you're in one of those sectors where Christmas, New Year's bad for you anyway, and suddenly you've got no money, and you're looking at the end of going out of business. So now is the time to be looking at these things and have a good look, because in some areas of the world, business almost seems to shut down over Christmas, and that could be a really good thing for you, could be a really bad thing. So now's the time. Review your figures regularly and have a look maybe at targeted price rises. And the other thing, we mentioned it there, is obviously making sure that you repackage and look at the value of your offerings. Can you tweak anything to give it more value at a lower cost to the business? And all these kind of things, just to make sure that clients and customers love working with you and that they really do see the true value. Because one theme we are seeing amongst business owners is, whilst it's not like business has dropped off a cliff, people are starting to be aware because of the media of the cost of everything. So then they're really looking for the best deal and the best value. And if you're not that, then people are going to start comparing you against other offerings. And even if they subsequently choose to come back to you, depending on the business you're in, there might be some back and forth and communication with those customers around, because they don't want to leave you, but they want to have a chat with you about it. And so there's like a big sink of admin time and things like that. So I think if you can do your absolute best to communicate that value, really go that extra mile right now and everything else to remind people of that value, you're hopefully going to save some time at the back end of having to discuss with your customers why they might be off and all that kind of stuff. So, and we're seeing that across all different manner of trades, is people just being more conscious. So it's not that they're necessarily leaving en masse, it's just that they're having those discussions, and those discussions take time, there's a cost to that and everything else. So value and your services and what you're doing right now, I think now's the best time to be on your A game, front foot forward, getting in touch and having those touch points with your customers so that they're not just, so they feel valued, they're not just a nameless thing out there. And that's where we're seeing the successes with owners that are doing that really, really well, is they're maintaining, they're going out, they're conquering, they're still going forward, even at a time. Because what we have seen, even in the financial crisis, maybe going back to 2008, is that the money will still be there somewhere, and it's whether it's just, can you get what's there? Because don't get me wrong, there will be people that just physically can't afford your product anymore, and they might need to go to one of your competitors because that's the only option they've got. But there will be other people in the market that still looking for it and still can afford it. So definitely have a look. And I suppose that's where we are. So to summarize that and some action for you, there's no panic stations out in the world we live in the small business world when we're talking to them. There's definitely a cost concern out there in the market in terms of people when they're buying, and if they've got retained type service. If you've got like a model like that, people are looking at that retained cost and thinking, am I getting my value? What's that? And that's a completely normal thing to do in this stage. So so action points for you is obviously don't panic. Review your figures, review them more regularly. Have a look at how you're doing with your margins. Have a look at whether you need to increase some targeted pricing and how you might communicate that. And then lastly, make sure that, as usual, but even more focus on it right now, you're providing as much value and you're speaking and in front of your customers as much as possible. And they're the things we're seeing working quite well for owners. But there's certainly no panic right now. There's just targeted concern, I guess, is probably the best way to say it. There you go. See you on the next one.